The sky over Zareth-3 was a dull violet, cloudless and still. Wind had not touched the planet in days, and a strange silence clung to the air like a heavy fog. Lieutenant Aaron Tovik stood on the roof of Outpost Helix, watching the horizon through his visor. The landscape was flat, dust-covered, and broken only by the distant skeletal remains of some long-dead alien architecture. The ruins always gave him a chill, even in the midday heat. "Status check, Tovik," came a voice through the comms. Aaron tapped his helmet. "Perimeter secure. No movement on visual or thermal. Still quiet." Major Daska's voice carried a sharp edge. Quiet isn't always good. He didn't respond. She was right. Ever since the Earth colonists had arrived on Zareth-3 2 years ago, the planet had offered little in the way of wildlife or resistance. It was too quiet. No predators, no prey, not even insects. Just empty plains and those damned ruins. Inside the outpost, the halls were dimly lit, with only a few personnel moving about. The crew was small, just 14 scientists and 6 security staff, but the walls felt tighter every day. Everyone had been restless. Equipment would glitch for no reason. Batteries drained faster than they should. More than once, people reported hearing voices in the night, though sensors picked up nothing. Aaron stepped into the command room. Major Daska stood at the central terminal, her uniform crisp despite the heat. She turned as he entered, brushing a strand of dark hair behind her ear. "Same report as yesterday," she said, tone clipped. "Nothing new on long-range scans. No signs of storms, seismic activity, or fauna." Aaron leaned on the console beside her. "So we're just sitting on a dead rock?" Her expression didn't change. "It's not dead, it's waiting." That unsettled him more than he wanted to admit. "The ruins?" She nodded. "Dr. Kesari thinks they were part of an old civilization. Maybe extinct, maybe not." He frowned. "Maybe not. She found something last night. Wants to brief us all." At 1800, Aaron crossed his arms. "If this is another false alarm." "It's not," Daska said. This time, she found an active signal. The silence between them stretched. Aaron could feel a shift in the room, like gravity pressing in harder than it should. A signal meant technology. A signal meant something, or someone was still alive. Dr. Myra Kesari stood at the front of the debriefing room, her eyes sharp behind thick lenses. The holographic display behind her showed an ancient stone obelisk, partially buried beneath the sand near the southern ruined field. "This artifact," she began, pointing at the image, "is not just a monument. It contains a data core." Murmurs rippled through the room. Aaron leaned forward, frowning. "You're telling us this thing still works?" "Yes," she said. "And more than that, it's broadcasting." The hologram shifted, displaying a waveform. "The frequency isn't in any known galactic range. It's subquantum, extremely low band. No modern device should even be able to detect it." "Then how did you?" Daska asked. Kesari looked grim. "We didn't. It found us." A chill passed through the room. At 0200, the station's AI core was accessed by an unknown protocol. No breach in physical or remote security. But the AI logs show a data handshake from an unidentified source. Aaron exchanged a look with Daska. The USS Liberty hovered near the edge of the Kepler system, like a predator in calm waters, unaware that it was about to become the eye of a storm. Captain Jake Morrison studied the tactical display in silence, the glowing green dot representing his ship was alone, small in comparison to the approaching mass of red signals spreading like wildfire across the screen. His calm face masked the calculations running through his mind: escape vectors, battle readiness, estimated time to full fleet contact. "Captain," Amy Johnson said again, her voice now strained. "Galactic fleet formation confirmed. 847. Ships no communication since their initial broadcast." Jake's fingers drummed lightly against the armrest. Tactical status. Ben Rodriguez leaned forward. Quantum railguns primed. Shield harmonics are holding. No power surges. We're ghosting like you asked. They think we're stupid enough to approach them alone. Let them think that. Jake said. Let them think we're everything they hope we are. In the engineering bay, Lisa Parker finished the final calibration of the energy modulation array. She had reconfigured the Liberty's power signature to mimic a much older class of vessel, something more primitive, less threatening. A ship from a young, bold species that didn't know its place. Every sensor scan the alien fleet ran would confirm their assumptions. A reckless, defiant scout testing the limits of its ambition. But the truth was far more complex. We're picking up a lot of active sweeps, Lisa said over the comms. They're not just looking for us. They're looking for others, which means they think we're not alone, Jake replied. Good. That buys us time, across the void. On the flagship Eternal Dominion, Commander Vexel stood motionless before the main view screen. He stared at the approaching human vessel, unease curling in his gut. The ship did not slow, did not broadcast a response. No signal, no panic, no attempt to flee. It moved with terrifying purpose. Why are they still advancing? He asked. Aloud. His science officer, Zector, adjusted the view with twitching hands. Unknown, Commander. They should be receiving our transmission by now. Unless what? Unless they want us to think they haven't. The bridge of the Eternal Dominion fell into tense silence. Vexel had seen many battles, had watched entire species bend or break before the Council's might. None had dared to ignore an order to surrender, certainly not a race as young as humanity. The arrogance, whispered the Zeon Prime Minister, from a secure diplomatic link. They insult us with silence. Vexel clenched his jaw. They test our resolve, from her observation pod on the Liberty. Amy kept a close eye on subspace anomalies. She noticed something peculiar, fluctuating gravitational distortions, rippling just behind the Liberty's engines. Captain, permission to deploy drones, she requested. Jake nodded. Send 5, passive scan only. We want eyes, not footprints. The drones spread like invisible fireflies, slipping between asteroids and cold void. Their quantum cloaking held, feeding back information directly into Liberty's hidden command core. Within minutes, images returned, not just of the Eternal Dominion, but of the entire fleet. Massive cruisers, carriers shaped like twin-pronged swords, living ships that pulsed with organic machinery. And somewhere, cloaked, were the Zephyrin. Known for subverting communication relays, the Zephyrin were experts in disrupting command chains mid-battle. Jake stared at the unfolding images. Ben, he said quietly, see that? Zephyrin drones behind our flank. They're trying to isolate us when the attack starts. Ben cracked his knuckles. Want me to surprise them first? Not yet. Let them believe they're sneaky. Meanwhile, Vexel received a new report. One that chilled him to the bone. Commander, Zector said, our long-range sweep detected an unknown energy field. We thought it was background radiation, but now it's moving, trailing us. Give me visuals. The screen shifted. For a moment, static, then faint outlines, distortions in space itself, as if light were refusing to reflect off. Something massive. Ships. Hidden ships. No life signs. No readings, Zector murmured. But Commander, they're there. Vexel narrowed his eyes. How many? Zector hesitated. We count 37. No, 40 vessels. All using non-standard stealth tech. A murmur of disbelief echoed on the bridge. We've been followed, Vexel said. From the moment we entered the Kepler system. They've been waiting. Suddenly, all assumptions collapsed. Communications. He barked, rebroadcast surrender. Demand on directed frequencies. Scramble codes. Make sure they understand. Transmission away. His comms officer confirmed. Still no reply. Vexel stepped forward, voice low. They've already chosen. Back aboard the Liberty, Jake finally stood from his chair. All right, he said to his crew. It's time. The lights in the ship's control center shifted. Backup systems shut down. Primary reactors came online. The hum grew deeper, richer. Fusion drives activated. But not for thrust, for power. The Liberty's shields flared to full strength, revealing their multi-spectrum phase array. Weapon ports opened along the ship's flanks. Broadcast on secure Earth Command Channel, Jake said. To all hidden fleet vessels, signal is Thunder Flash. Repeat, Thunder Flash. Amy hit the switch. Across the void, stars blinked, but not from light. They vanished from view, momentarily eclipsed by sudden, coordinated activation of cloaked human vessels. 37 ships decloaked across the Kepler system. Every one of them bristled with weapons, each one powered by the most advanced engines Earth had ever built. And more were coming. The Liberty was only the tip of the spear. The Galactic Council fleet scrambled. Alarms sounded on every bridge. Defensive grids activated. But confusion spread faster than coordination. Their target had never been a lone scout. It had been the bait. Vexel's eyes widened. This was a trap. On the Liberty, Ben grinned. Permission to fire. Jake nodded slowly. Target their relay ships. Cut their ability to coordinate. From the Liberty's undercarriage to railguns rotated and locked. Energy pulsed into magnetic channels. A deep thrum echoed through the hull. Moments later, with impossible speed, twin shots fired, faster than light. Near invisible except for the trail of compressed space behind them. Across the fleet, 3 relay ships exploded. No warning, no time for shields. Just silence, and then nothing. Vexel roared. All ships, return fire. The battle began. The void came alive with color, a kaleidoscope of destruction, energy blasts, railgun fire, countermeasures, distortion fields. Human ships moved with fluid precision, flanking alien formations with tactical brilliance. But the Council fleet was vast, and each species brought centuries of experience to war. Within minutes, vessels on both sides had been lost. Jake maneuvered the Liberty through overlapping attack vectors. Ben issued targeting commands while Lisa rerouted damaged systems in real time. Amy coordinated with Earth Command and relayed fleet adjustments to hidden support units. One human ship, the USS Dagger, was lost early, overrun by a Zeon boarding unit. But for every human loss, 4 alien ships fell. They weren't ready for this. They didn't expect a species that had spent millennia perfecting conflict, surviving wars that had no diplomacy, no rules. Inside the Eternal Dominion, Vexel made a hard choice. All units retreat to fallback positions Beta 4. We must regroup. The order went out, but not fast enough. Human warships pushed forward. A flanking team composed of stealth vessels disabled power nodes along the flank. Another squadron decimated the insectoid cruisers, knowing their weaknesses. Lay in hull segmentation. The Council fleet fractured dot on the Liberty's bridge. Jake exhaled. They're breaking. But he knew this was only the beginning. A wounded animal was more dangerous than a proud one. The Council would not forget this. They would return, in greater numbers, with greater hatred. Jake turned to his crew. Status: for ships lost, Amy reported, to critically damaged. But the Kepler system is under our control. Ben crossed his arms. We sent a message today. Lisa added, and now they'll send one back. Jake stared at the stars beyond the screen. No longer silent. This wasn't a battle, he said. It was a warning shot. From both sides, the war had begun, and it would only get worse from here. Captain Myra Ellan stared at the panoramic display, stretching across the command deck of the Driftwing. Stars shimmered silently beyond the reinforced transparent shielding, their cold beauty overshadowed by the growing storm brewing within her. Thoughts, since their descent into Zareth's orbit, nothing had gone as expected. First came the strange, signal-structured, rhythmic, unmistakably intelligent. Then, the disappearance of Lieutenant Bex and the security crew during a standard perimeter sweep, and now this, the reappearance of one of the missing, walking alone from the mist-covered forest with no suit, no comms, no explanation, just that glassy, vacant expression. "We have to scan her again," Ayla said firmly, arms folded, eyes fixed on the medbay feed. "Captain," replied Dr. Lyra Nawson through the comm, her voice tight with concern. "I've run the full diagnostics. The woman in there is genetically Bex, same bone structure, retinal map, and neural patterns. But her vitals are wrong. She hasn't blinked in 5 minutes. Her pulse is nearly non-existent. But her oxygen levels are fine. She's alive, but barely registering as human. She's not Bex anymore," whispered Commander Halrick from beside the captain, hands resting on the console as he leaned closer to the display. "She's something else, Doctor." "Isolate her," Ayla commanded. "Full quarantine protocols. I don't want her contaminating the rest of the crew until we understand what we're dealing with." "Understood." The comm link cut out, and silence blanketed the bridge. Outside, the crimson hues of Zareth's dying sun cast jagged shadows. Across the forested valley below, the air shimmered with faint energy pulses, faint electromagnetic distortions, recorded on every sensor, yet invisible to the eye. "I want a recon team down there," Ayla said. "Small, tight formation, drones in advance, full suit protection, and uplink constant. If something's rewriting people down there, I want eyes on it." "Captain," Halrick interjected, tapping on his data slate, "we've got something else. The signal our translators have broken part of it. It's not just repeating a pattern anymore." Ayla turned sharply. "What's it saying?" "It's not entirely language. It's more intention, like a dream converted into sound. But the clearest section translates as a directive." He turned the slate for her to see. "We awaken. We become. You are not alone." A chill prickled her skin. "That's not a message," she murmured. "That's a warning." Half a kilometer beneath the driftwing, nestled into the folds of Zareth's violet-hued forest, recon Squad Theta moved in formation. Their exosuits glowed with soft blue status lights, and their steps made no sound on the sponge-like moss that blanketed the ground. Lieutenant Juno Kale led the team. She was an experienced pathfinder, someone who'd charted moons and derelict colonies all across the outer reach. But nothing had ever felt like this. The forest breathed. Not metaphorically, she could see it. The trees expanded and contracted, with a rhythm, synchronized like a pulse, and somewhere beyond, deeper into the mist, was the source of the signal. "Status?" she asked quietly. "All clear," replied Nirax, her second in command, "but the drones are glitching. Feeds coming through fragmented like something's jamming them." "Could be environmental interference," muttered Tech Officer Bren, "or something smarter." Juno didn't reply. The deeper they went, the quieter everything became. No insects, no wind. The only sound was the distant hum of their own suits and a low thrum like a bass note played beneath reality. Then the trees opened. Before them stood a massive circular stone structure, half buried and covered in ancient vine growth. Symbols pulsed faintly on its surface, organic and geometric, shifting with impossible symmetry. In the center was an open archway filled with rippling light. "What the hell is that?" whispered Nirax. Juno stepped forward. "I think we found where the signal's coming from, on the driftwing." Ayla watched the live drone feed flicker as it tried to focus on the strange structure. The archway distorted digital readouts and sensor sweeps. But one thing was clear: this thing was alive. Its frequencies matched the signal, down to the microharmonics. It was broadcasting, listening, and more disturbingly responding. Commander, Ayla said. What do we have in the way of EMPs? Halric blinked. Standard pulse mines. Enough to shut down a city block. Prep to, she ordered. I want to know what happens when we hit that thing with a blackout. Captain. Lyra's voice buzzed in urgently from medbay. She's reacting to the signal. Her neural activity just spiked. It's like the signal is updating her. Explain. Ayla demanded. She's not just a receiver, she's sensing to it. The signal is rewriting her nervous system, adjusting her on a molecular level. If we interrupt it, I don't know what'll happen. Do it anyway, Ayla said. In the forest clearing, Juno's squad placed the EMP charges round the stone ring. The pulses would fire inward, collapsing the electromagnetic field of the gate. As they activated the final timer, something changed. The archway began to hum. The pulse grew louder and louder, not just sound but pressure, like standing next to the gravity well of a collapsing star. The light in the archway flared, and Juno shouted, "Fall back, now." But it was too late. The light exploded outward, not as heat or energy, but as memory. Juno saw her childhood, her father's funeral, the day she left Earth, her first mission, her first kill. 1,000 images flashed through her mind, and then strangers, a vast ocean, towers reaching into infinity, creatures with silver skin, and mouths that whispered galaxies. When she opened her eyes, the forest was gone. They stood in a massive chamber beneath a sky of swirling light. The archway behind them stood intact. Round them, figures were watching, tall, humanoid, but their faces blurred as if their features were too complex for the human brain to comprehend. One stepped forward. It didn't speak in words, but Juno understood it all the same. You come too soon. The awakening is not complete. Yet you have touched the source. Juno raised her rifle. Identify yourself. The being tilted its head. We are the memory of what was. The architects of silence. We built Zareth to sleep. But now the sky stirs, and your kind walks too loud. A second being approached. This one carried something, a device. It pulsed in tandem with the forest. The gate, the very heartbeat of Zareth. You will return with this. You will decide. Join us or bury us again. Before Juno could respond, the chamber vanished. The recon team reappeared in the clearing, flat on the ground. The EMP charges had never detonated. The archway stood silent. The pulse had stopped. On the driftwing, Ayla watched as the signal vanished from all sensors. Dr. Nawson confirmed that Bex's vitals were flat, no longer alive. But her body had dissolved into a silvery dust. They shut it off, Halric said. No, Ayla replied. They chose to show us. The recon team was recovered without injury. Juno clutched the device in her hand, eyes distant, words cryptic. They were waiting, she said. We woke them too early. They gave us a choice. What kind of choice? Ayla asked. Juno's eyes met hers. To become what they are, or remain what we were and be left behind. Captain Ayla Wren sat in the observation chamber of the driftwing, her gaze fixed on the artifact Lieutenant Juno Kale had brought back from the depths of Zareth's forest. It hovered within the containment field, pulsating with rhythmic light, dim, steady, like a slow heartbeat. The object was unlike anything known, a crystalline prism encased in interlocking metallic filaments, each filament etched with shifting glyphs that refused to stay still. Every analysis run on it had failed. The ship's computers couldn't read it, scan it, or understand it. Even looking at it too long gave Ayla a headache. Across from her, Commander Halric stood with arms crossed, his expression unreadable. She hasn't said anything new, he asked. Ayla shook her head. Just keeps repeating the same thing. They offered us a path forward or a place to rest. She won't say which we're on. Halric sighed. And the gate's still dormant, dead silent. Whatever that pulse was, it shut everything down. Forests back to normal too. At least on the surface. They stood in silence for a moment, both listening to the faint hum of the artifact. Then Ayla turned toward the door. Bring Kale to the debriefing room. I want to hear the whole thing from her again, every detail. Juno Kale sat in the debriefing chamber, eyes shadowed with exhaustion. Her face was paler than usual, but her tone was steady when she spoke. It wasn't a hallucination. She began, I know how that sounds, but I need you to believe me. The place we went to, it wasn't just some alien chamber. It was a memory made real, a simulation, maybe a dimensional pocket. I don't know, but it was alive. A piece of consciousness frozen in light. Ayla leaned forward. And these beings, the ones who spoke to you, Juno nodded slowly. They weren't like us, not in form, not in purpose. They called themselves the architects of silence. I think they were once organic. But whatever they've become now, they exist between physical and conceptual. Not gods, but not far off either. They wanted you to return with that device, Haurik said. Why? They said it's a choice. Juno looked down at her hands. The device holds a path away for us to join them, to evolve. But also a test. If we're not ready, activating it might wipe us out. Not as punishment, as consequence. Ayla frowned. That's a hell of a gamble. Juno nodded. They think we've come too soon, stirred their sleep before the cycle was complete. We weren't supposed to find Zareth yet, but now that we have, they can't undo it. So what are they? Haurik asked. Some kind of ancient civilization. Survivors from before the galactic dark age. Juno shook her head. No, they're older than that. The architects were here before stars formed. They didn't just live in the universe, they shaped it. And they left Zareth behind as a marker, a cradle for their return. Now they want to know if we're worthy of standing beside them. Ayla's voice was low. And if we're not, then we sleep beside them, forever. The artifact remains sealed, and the driftwing maintained. Orbit. Ayla ordered all further expeditions suspended until command could be contacted and briefed. However, every attempt at long-range communication had failed. Subspace relays sent, but no acknowledgments returned. It was as if Zareth was isolated, trapped in a temporal shell. Back in engineering, Chief Parker ran diagnostics on the calm rays. No damage, no interference. She reported, but the signals just don't go, like the universe outside has gone quiet. The next day, something changed. It started with the crew's dreams. Ensign Kale reported seeing oceans of light in his sleep, voices whispering in harmonic tones. Then Officer Bren described floating in a void filled with spirals of glass, each one echoing forgotten names Juno claimed she hadn't slept at. All but awoke with symbols etched onto her arm, symbols that faded before she could show anyone. Ayla began dreaming too. Zareth itself spoke in her mind, the forest breathing in unison with her heartbeat. In one dream, she stood before the stone archway, and beyond it stood thousands of silent figures, all watching her without faces. She awoke gasping, heart pounding. By the fourth day, reality aboard the driftwing began to blur. Time seemed elastic. Some crew members reported hours passing in minutes. Others swore minutes stretched into eternity. Doors opened to wrong corridors. The stars outside shifted subtly when no one was looking. Dr. Nawson checked the crew's vitals and found abnormalities, heightened neural activity, minor radiation signatures unaccounted for by the ship's logs, and a shared theta wave pattern during sleep. The artifact glowed brighter each day. Juno insisted it was awakening, just like Zareth. She spent more time near it, claiming she could hear the architects whispering, not with words, but emotions. They're watching us, she told Ayla. Not judging, just waiting. The device is building a consensus, measuring who we are, what we fear, what we desire. And what do we desire? Ayla asked. Juno answered with a whisper, ascension. On the seventh day, the gates opened again. The pulse returned stronger this time. Lights across the ship dimmed. The forest below shimmered as if overlaid with a second image, a city of impossible geometry. Rising from the ground, the signal returned to the ship's sensors, but this time, it spoke clearly. "We offer you the path. Step forward or remain." All screens across the driftwing displayed the message, in every language known to Earth and several that had never been translated before. "Captain," Halric said grimly, "I think they want an answer." Ayla stood, her decision made. "Prepare an away team," she ordered. "Full protocol, no weapons. We're not here to fight." "And the artifact?" asked Lyra. "It comes with us." They descended into the valley where the stone archway stood, now fully uncovered. The surrounding terrain had transformed trees bent toward the center. The moss glowed with internal bioluminescence, and the air crackled with static energy. The away team included Ayla, Juno, Halric, Dr. Nawson, and 3 security officers. The artifact floated between them, suspended in a magnetic field generator. As they approached the gate, the light within it shimmered once, and a low harmonic vibration passed through the team. Then a voice not mechanical, but deep and resonant spoke from nowhere. "You bring the seed. You stand at the threshold. Do you choose to become?" Ayla stepped forward. "We don't know what that means. We don't even understand what you are. You understand enough. You stood before silence and listened. You returned with memory. That is the first step." Juno turned to Ayla. "They're asking us to join them, not as subjects, as equals. But we can't go halfway. It's all or nothing." Ayla looked into the light of the gate. For a moment, she saw herself reflected, aged, changed, eyes like stars. Then the image shifted, and she saw Earth burning. "I need to know," she said quietly. "If we say yes, what do we become? Not what. When." The gate pulsed again. "The decision must be unanimous. You are one people. You move as one or remain divided." Ayla turned to her team. Each of them nodded, some hesitantly, some with solemn certainty. Finally, Juno stepped forward and placed her hand on the artifact. The light surged. The gate widened. A wave of heatless energy washed over them, and the forest vanished. They stood in a space beyond space, beneath a sky of memory and starlight. There were no walls, only a sense of infinite vastness. The architect stood before them, fully visible now. They were tall, graceful, their forms shifting between energy and matter. Their voices came as thoughts. "You have come. The last key is chosen. We are ready to begin." And then the world shattered, not with sound or fire, but with understanding. Ayla fell to her knees as knowledge poured into her. The structure of atoms rewritten, the history of galaxies mapped in seconds, the sorrow of the last sun, the birth of dark energy, the pain of stars dying alone, the promise of eternity wrapped in light. On the driftwing, the bridge crew watched helplessly as the away team vanished from sensors. The artifact left behind shimmered once and disintegrated. The pulse stopped. Zareth fell silent once again.